Hi, my name is Sue Pruitt. I'm the Deco Art Traditions Education Coordinator. I'd like to share with you today how to paint a mottled background using the Traditions paints and extender and blending medium. It's nice to have a medium that can extend the open time of your paint, and you can add values and color and just make beautiful backgrounds with that. So come join me. The background of this painting has been done in a mottled technique. I'm going to demonstrate how to do that using the Traditions extender and blending medium. This medium allows for longer open time in the paint, which makes it very easy to blend colors. And it's nice to have different values in a background to keep it from looking flat. This is what it's going to look like, similar, of course, when I'm finished. And some of it will be covered up. That's why I brought out the red violet out towards the outer edges and not just have it behind the design, so a little bit can peek out around the design. Let's start with a white canvas. Now all I've done with this is sand it to make it nice and smooth. We're going to use the extender and blending medium, glazing medium. I've got some extender and blending medium inside this little container. Also have a kneaded eraser. I'm going to use these Traditions brushes. We've got a white mop, a large oval, and a 1-inch flat. This oval's nice for doing soft backgrounds because it has this rounded edge on top. And of course you're gonna see that when I demonstrate. I like to clean my brush as well before I do this because you want to eliminate as much hair getting into your background as possible. And mops have a tendency of shedding. They all do that. So I take this kneaded eraser and just brush this on here and try to get any of the loose hairs out of there. You can also dust it, preferably not over your painting or your surface. And I like to, work on a clean surface. You'd be amazed at when this is all wet, the amount of dust and hair that sticks in here. I've got some dark value gray number 3, titanium white, ultramarine blue, medium gray 6, medium white, and red violet. Some paper towels. Got my paint already laid out on my palette. When you're doing a mottled background, one of the important things to remember is value. Having a variety of values. In this we're also going to add a variety of color to make it even more interesting. So I'm going to make a dark blue and a medium blue. I've got some ultramarine blue, medium white, and gray number 6. I'm going to mix those together and get a soft blue. Make some dark blue. And if it looks too gray, I will add a little bit more blue to that. You do want it to be blue, not gray. And it looks like I will need to add a little bit of blue to that. First thing I'm going to do is apply extender medium to the entire surface. And when you apply extender medium, it should look like a sheen, not wet to where if I was to pick this up, it would be dripping off. Somewhat like as if you just varnish the piece. And you know how after you varnish, you want to, make it nice and smooth. If you get too much extender medium, you can always blot it with a paper towel. But as long as I don't see any large puddles or drips, that's what I want. That's just going to stay our extender brush. First I'm going to start with the titanium white, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that gray number 8. Just mix those together. And you can add that. I forgot to say that in my list in the beginning. I'm going to put this on the entire surface. Sometimes you can pick up a little more gray, a little more white. And at this stage, it doesn't have to be, you know, super smooth and perfect, because we're going to make it look really messy in a minute. I'm going to pinch out the excess out of my brush. I'm going to come into this medium blue. And I know I want it a little darker on the edges. Kind of frame it with that blue. I'm just slip slapping this on. Mainly just covering area at this point. A little bit of that in the middle. And try to use a good amount of paint on your brush. You want to have some paint to move around. If you don't have enough paint, you're going to run into more problems than if you have too much paint. So as you can see, I have some of the white showing through. And I'm just going to lift this a little bit because I do see there's a little bit of a glare on there. Put something underneath there. Pinch that brush. I'm going to pick up some titanium white. Do you see how I'm just manipulating my brush back and forth? And using the tip of the brush, this nice rounded edge. You can also do this with the flat brush if that's all you have. But using the same slip slapping technique. So what I'm looking for now is I have blue, white, blue, white, blue, white, and that just helps to keep the light flowing around. I'm going to pinch out the brush again. I'm going to take my mop brush. And what I want to do is just soften in between the two colors here. And when you use a mop brush, you just use the tip of it. Just have a very light touch on the brush. And you do have a good amount of time to work with this, so it's not something that you necessarily need to rush through. I've done 2 and 3 of these at the same time because you do have that much time to work with it. Now if it was a very hot day, I might have a little bit more complications because this would dry faster. One thing you also want to look for is hairs so that they don't get locked in the paint. And you can just usually either lift those out with a mop brush or even take your extender brush and try to lift those out. I'm liking the way this is looking. I like to have a little movement, meaning, you know, have some lines, have some directions. Try not to get it, you know, so super smooth that it doesn't have any interest. I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue. Make it a little darker on the outside edges. Mainly the corners there. How you can tell if you have too much extender is this will just be swimming. Mainly the paint will just be kind of runny. And if that happens, something good to do is either let it tack up, just blot it with your paper towel. Using the tip of the brush just to soften between the values. Back with my mop brush. Now before I change colors and go into the red violet, I want to go ahead and put some of this darker blue. I'm going to brush mix in between those. And never rinse your brush when you're doing this, just pinch it out. You want to keep that extender medium in your brush because water is the solvent. And it will loosen up the extender and defeat our purpose here. Bring some of this dark in the center behind the design also. You see when I said values I'm looking for, I can still see some of the light blue, the white, now a darker blue. So that's given me 3 values. And that's what you're striving for, is a variety in value. Back to my mop brush. To remember that a lot of this is going to be covered up. Sometimes we get a little overzealous about, trying to make it look perfect, and then you put the design on and can't see a lot of what you were overly concerned about. If you would need to wipe off your mop brush, you can do that on your paper towel. I like having some of these lines from the mop brush, directional lines. It's a little interest. It will dry a little darker. You always have to keep that in mind also. I'm going to pinch out that brush and I'm going to come into red violet. And I want the red violet to kind of pop in here and there around the design. The design is in the middle here. Remember, I'm just using the tip of the brush. Pinch out the excess when we blend. Continue to soften this. Just mainly looking for those hard edge value lines. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put this aside, because as it starts to dry, you can add a little bit more, and it will accept a little bit more. Sometimes if it's too wet, the paint just keeps moving around. But what I want to show you on this other one, set that aside. This one, I've already done it, but after it dries and you're looking at it, you might want to add, maybe you want to add a little bit more dark or a little bit more white. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to clean out my brush in some extender medium. Pinch out the excess. Put some extender on here. And I've dried this with a hairdryer, because that is the way you want to dry this, unless you're going to come back to it in a couple days. But if you want to come back to it right away, go ahead and dry it with a hairdryer. The heat hardens Decor Art Traditions paint. It just keeps it from lifting. Always looking for those hairs. Now when you layer on top of this, just be careful how much paint you put on, unless you want to, paint the whole thing again. Meaning, I just want to add a little bit of light. Sometimes that light goes away. So at this point, the layering, I would add a little more light. If I want a little more dark. Trying to keep this very soft. One thing about backgrounds, you know, they can be really interesting, but you just don't want them to overpower your painting, the actual painted area. I'm going to pull this aside, bring back this one that is still wet. See how it's doing in the drying. I can see I could probably add a little bit more blue. That's still accepting that pretty well. That's probably been, what, about 3 minutes, 2 minutes? The extender medium is an excellent product. If you have problems with it, you might not be using enough or too much. Or putting water in your brush. And that's something you don't want to do. Still very workable. Now to protect this background, for instance, once you put your pattern on, you start painting, and let's say you make a mistake and you start rubbing it off, or you drop some paint on it and you start rubbing, you might rub down, you know, through this paint. Well, another product we have is the glazing medium. And what the glazing medium is, one of the uses is to use it as a barrier coat. Oh, I put the glazing medium underneath here. So I'm going to put a little bit of this out on the palette. It's very thick. You can add water to it, so I tend to have water in my brush. Get a clean brush, have some water in it. I just pull a little bit aside when I'm using it as a barrier coat. It's the same consistency as the paint, mainly to be used to, you know, make paint translucent. You can mix it in with the paint. Love using it as a barrier coat. This will protect the background. Some more water. Now, if you put too much of this on, like too heavy, too many applications, you could be, you know, make a slick background, and that's not what you want to do. That's why I put just a very thin application. And that's mainly to protect my background. And make sure that you dry this with a hair dryer prior to applying this. Like I said before, the hair dryer, the heat, hardens the Traditions paints. For instance, if I just let this dry for 30 minutes and I come back and I go to put the glazing medium on, if that extender is not completely dry or that paint's not completely dry, I'm going to put my glazing medium on and I'm just going to start moving this all around. And that is not what you want to do after you get this background just the way you want it. So make sure you dry this. And look for those little hairs. If you want it to dry faster, you can also dry the glazing medium with the hairdryer. And now, after that, I'll put my design on.